Hi, my name's Conor Mitchell, and I'm the composer of Look Both Ways. I was approached by the soprano Lucy Schaefer because I think Lucy had been following a lot of the work that I make in Belfast with the Belfast Ensemble, which of late has had quite a queer aesthetic. You know, I'm quite interested in subjects that are queer based. I know that when Lucy was creating her concert program, she was very keen to commission a series of pieces that I think had a diversity agenda, but also spoke about diversity within the canon of music itself historically. And I think just she had always burned for these letters. And the other half of Wild Plum Arts, Chris, had just written a book on Britain with Stuart Bedford. So I think the Benjamin Britten question had been floating around their mind for some time, and this felt like a choice text. So they actually approached me. I think the idea of taking a correspondence between these two kind of giants of 20th century British music had a clear point of origin, which was verbatim text becoming libretto text, or finding the poeticism within verbatim text. So basically, I was given the entire published correspondence of these two from a lifetime. We were all very clear that it needed to be two singers. Now, whether or not that is two men, or it's a man and a woman, or it's two women, or it's people who identify as neither gender, was not really something that we set in stone. In fact, that became a tenet of it. Now, the one thing I knew that I couldn't do when I read all the letters was find a way to represent the entire relationship. And I needed to find a little corner of their correspondence that kind of turned me on. And one thing that I was really, really struck by was that there was a period from the early 1940s where they were in the first flushes of the relationship. But Britain was also in the first flushes of becoming a jobbing composer. We have this kind of golden period post his return from America, where the decision to go to Aldeburgh, to set up house, to remove himself from the metropolis of London, and to become native and rooted in that part of the world, coincides with the beginning of his relationship with Peter Pears, who has, at the same time, the first flushes of a very urbane existence. So you have these two very different people at a very exciting point in their lives, both separated by work. So they're effectively mostly letters home from Peter Pears, describing the wider world, the way he travels, the ingenuity of modern travel, and with a really wide-eyed sensibility of what is possible, the life they might have together, and his latest adventures. So those were the things that came out to me, and the big revelation for me was quite how urbane, witty, and in a sense Auden-esque Peter Pears was in their correspondences, and how passive, I suppose, Benjamin Britten was in that entire a lifetime of letter writing. There were actually a series of letters of Peter Pears, one about an airplane, one about the mundanity of touring in, Halifax. These letters were there. So I took the ones that felt like they were calling out to be plumped into song and tried to imagine the canon of works that Pears himself might be singing at that time. So there are references in those song universes. Each one's about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, to those, like just little spices of Venturisa, a little bit of cold porter, stuff like that. stitching the whole thing together, there is a more balanced recitative of Benjamin Britten. Musically, the music of the Peter Pears letters is incredibly diatonic. And I want the audience to fall in love with songwriting. One thing I find in making it and people talking about the piece was what I would call like the smoking gun. You know, you're looking for almost that letter where they very clearly talk about the fact that this is an illegal relationship, or being secret, or they've been caught, or a mistake has been made. Something where they honestly talk about their scenario, and the fact that that's not there. What became clear to me was that the affection within the letters and the bravery, or perhaps naivety, to be so almost fearless about being caught, you know, a kind of safety that they had with regard to the law. That's just something I've been kind of wrestling with in my own mind. It's like, you know, am I kind of doing them justice here? And I've reached the conclusion that it's actually that normality that is the shocking thing, you know. And, you know, to me, it is not, you know, it's not an explosive fact that two men were in love in the 1940s, you know, but it is explosive to me that they weren't living in London or in Manchester or in Belfast, you know, or they hadn't, you know, gone to France like that. What is shocking to me is that they set up camp in a fishing village, you know, and that they wrote letters to one another from around the world with pet names, you know, and talked explicitly about planning their lives together. And I kind of did read them and go, the only reason I'm getting to read these letters is because Benjamin Britten became a national composer. And what kind of can break your heart is you imagine how many thousands more men and women were in a similar situation across Britain and Ireland, but weren't famous composers or singers, and were also writing letters like this. So I imagine there was a whole population of gay people that potentially were doing the same thing. We just will never see their letters. And I find that really beautiful in a way.
And cut.